At Sunday dinner, my daughter compared me to her father-in-law. My father-in-law built an entire car dealership empire from nothing. And you, Dad, you just fix cars. I'd spent 40 years with grease under my fingernails, raised her alone after her mother died, gave her everything I had, and she thought I was nothing compared to him. I suddenly realized I'd been teaching her the wrong way for 30 years, so I decided to teach her a new one, and it all started the very next morning. Just 3 weeks later, she was begging me on her knees. Thank you for being here. I know what it's like to feel invisible. Maybe you do too. Tell me in the comments where you're listening from and what time is it. I'd love to know who's walking this journey with me. My daughter sat across from me at my own dinner table and said, Thatcher built a dealership empire from nothing. You just fix cars. I set my fork down. We were in my house, my dining room, eating the pot roast I'd spent 3 hours cooking. And my daughter, 45 years old, with an MBA, just told me my life's work was nothing. Just fixed cars, I repeated quietly. Camille didn't even notice the edge in my voice. She kept going. I mean, Thatcher started with one used car lot. Now he owns Reed Luxury Motors. That's real success. Her husband Holden stared at his plate. My grandkids Kai and Penny scrolled their phones. Nobody said a word. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. Designer sweater, perfect hair, living in a nice uptown condo with 2 kids in private school. She had everything she ever wanted, and she had no idea where it came from. Starting Monday. I said, I'm done fixing your life. Camille blinked. What? You heard me. I stood up. Ask Thatcher for help. Let's see what his empire does for you. Dad, wait. I walked out, through my living room, past the photos on my wall, out to my garage. I sat in my truck. 2005 Ford F-150, 190,000 miles. Same truck I'd driven since Camille was in college. How did it come to this? The answer hurt. Claire, my wife died 30 years ago. Heart attack at the shop. Sudden, she was 40. Camille was 15, angry, grieving, lost. At the funeral, Camille sobbed into my shirt. I need Mom. You don't understand me. So I promised I'd give her everything. Be both parents. Make sure she never struggled like Claire and I did. College, graduate school, down payment on her condo, help with bills, help with the kids, anything she needed. For 30 years I kept that promise. Maybe I kept it too well. Monday morning, 6 a.m. I walked into Hiawatha Bank on Lake Street. The teller, Jasmine, smiled. Morning, Mr. Grant. I handed her a list. Cancel all these automatic transfers. Her smile faded. All of them, everyone. She looked at her screen. That's mortgage help, $600 a month. Insurance, $380. Daycare, $420. Miscellaneous, $600. She looked up. $2,000 a month. Are you sure nothing's wrong? Nothing's wrong. I'm just done being an ATM. 10 minutes. That's all it took to cut the cord. My hands didn't shake. By noon I was at Matt's bar with Gene Palmer. Gene's been my friend since we were kids. He knew what I'd done before I said a word. You really did it? Gene said, biting into his burger. I did. About time, he nodded. How long you giving her? 3 weeks. Till the first bill bounces. She'll panic. Good. And you'll say no. I'll teach her what her mother would have taught her. How to stand on her own. Gene raised his beer. Claire would be proud. Would she? Claire was tough. She would have stopped me from spoiling Camille years ago. But Claire wasn't here. It was just me, a 68-year-old mechanic who'd spent 3 decades being invisible. I drove back to my shop, Grant's Auto Service, East Lake Street. Been there since 1995. Marcus, my apprentice, was under a Camry. The place smelled like motor oil and honest work. I grabbed my tools. For 30 years I'd been invisible. To my daughter. To her family. To everyone except the customers who shook my hand and said thank you. Not anymore. I'd given Camille 3 weeks. 3 weeks to realize what she'd lost. 3 weeks to understand that just fixing cars had built her entire life. My hands were steady. I wasn't reaching for my wallet anymore. I was reaching for my spine. The silence lasted 22 days. 22 days of waking up at 5:30, making coffee in my empty kitchen and checking my phone. Nothing. 22 days of working under cars while my mind worked over what I'd done. 22 days of Jean asking the same question every afternoon. She call yet? Not yet. She will. I wasn't so sure. Maybe Camille had more money saved than I thought. Maybe Holden's paycheck covered more than I knew. Or maybe, and this hurt to think about, maybe she'd already gone to Thatcher. I worked. That's what I do. I fixed a transmission on a Honda Accord, replaced brake pads on a Chevy Silverado, changed oil on cars whose owners knew my name, and shook my hand. Honest work. The kind Camille thought was just something. Every night I went home to my quiet house, made dinner, sat at that table where she'd insulted me, and every night I thought about Kai and Penny. Were they okay? Did they understand why Grandpa wasn't around? I slept poorly. When I did sleep, I heard Claire's voice. Not words exactly, just her presence. The feeling she used to give me when I was doing something hard but right, like when we decided to keep the shop open during the recession, or when we chose to pay for Camille's braces instead of fixing our leaking roof. You're doing the right thing, Claire would have said. I hoped she was right. Day 22, Wednesday morning, 7:32 a.m. I was under a '98 Camry replacing a worn serpentine belt when my phone rang. I almost didn't answer. My hands were covered in grease, but something made me wipe them on my coveralls and pull the phone from my pocket. Camille. I slid out from under the car and answered. Yeah? Dad. Her voice was tight, panicked. Something's wrong. I didn't say anything, just waited. The daycare payment bounced. They sent Penny home with a notice, and the mortgage dad, there's a late fee. $200. And Kai's school called about his field trip deposit. Camille, did you stop the transfers? I did, 3 weeks ago, Monday morning. Silence. Then wait. You mean everything. The mortgage, insurance, all of it. There it was, the moment she realized. Every bill, I said. For 20 years. About $320,000 total. I heard her gasp. Actually heard the air leave her lungs. You didn't know, I said. It wasn't a question. I thought you helped with some things. Not everything. Everything. More silence. Then her voice cracked. Dad, please. The kids. Kai's field trip is next week. Penny's ballet recital costume, we already signed up. You're 45 years old, Camille. You have an MBA. Holden has a job. You two make, what, $80,000 a year combined. We have expenses. So did your mother and I. We figured it out. We can't. Then ask Thatcher. I kept my voice level, calm. Your empire builder, the man who's so much more successful than me. Ask him. Don't. I hung up. For a moment I just stood there in my shop. Around me tools hung on pegboards. The smell of oil and metal, the hum of the air compressor. This place was mine. Built with my hands and my sweat. I slid back under the Camry. Marcus, my apprentice, rolled over on his creeper. Boss your daughter, okay? I picked up my wrench and tightened a bolt. No, but she will be. That evening my phone rang. Jean. Your daughter called Thatcher. My niece Sarah saw them at Capitol Grill. I set down my sandwich. When? Tomorrow lunch. Sarah's serving their table. She'll listen. Good. I hung up and sat at my kitchen table. The same one where Camille had insulted me 3 weeks ago. When did my daughter start worshipping Thatcher Reed? 6 months ago, maybe 7. Thatcher invited Camille to lunch. Networking, he called it. She came home glowing. Dad, you should see his country club. Leather chairs, crystal glasses. Thatcher knows everyone. After that, it was every Thursday. Always expensive restaurants. Always new ideas about success. Thatcher started with $500, she'd say. Now he's got the Bentley, the penthouse, everything. What she didn't say but I heard was the rest. And you've got a garage and an old truck. Over months Thatcher fed her poison. Your father's a good man. Simple. Small-scale thinking. Real success leaves a mark. Dripped slowly, so slowly she didn't taste it. Until one Sunday she said it out loud. You just fix cars. The next evening Jean called again. Sarah just got off work. You need to hear this. Camille arrived nervous, ordered wine before Thatcher showed up. When he walked in 15 minutes late, all smiles. Busy day closing deals. Camille got straight to it. My father cut me off. I need $8,400. Thatcher sipped his scotch. $45 a glass. Camille, your father spoiled you. This is a learning moment. I just need help getting through. I can spare 2,000. Capital's tight right now. Sarah said. Camille looked ready to cry. Thank you. 5% monthly interest, due in 30 days. Camille went pale. That's 2,100. Accountability, something your father never taught you. Thatcher ordered the most expensive steak. $240 bill. Paid with a gold card, left 10% tip, walked out to his Bentley. Camille sat alone, crying. He charged her interest, I said. 5% a month, Jean replied. 60% annual. A man with a Bentley can't lend 8,000. That's what I thought. Rich people don't act desperate. I stared at my wall. You said you know an accountant. Morris Thompson worked with every dealership in town. If Thatcher's empire is real, Morris will know. Call him. You sure, Gav, once you start digging, call him. I sat in my quiet house. If Thatcher Reed was everything he claimed, I'd be wrong, and I could live with being wrong. But if he wasn't, if my daughter was worshiping a fraud, if she'd traded her real father for a con man, then someone had to shine a light. That someone was me. 3 days later, Saturday morning, I met Morris Thompson at the Copperdome Diner. Jean made the introduction. Morris was 58, wore reading glasses on a chain, carried a worn leather briefcase. The kind of man who'd seen every number, every lie, every financial collapse this city had to offer. We shook hands. His grip was firm. Jean says you're good people, Morris said, sliding into the booth. So I'll help, but this stays between us. Understood. He opened his briefcase and pulled out a folder. Read Luxury Motors. You want the truth or the pretty version? The truth. Morris spread documents across the table. Financial statements, bank notices, credit reports. Current debt, $920,000. That's $520 to manufacturers for inventory. He can't sell $400 to Citizens Bank for operating loans. I stared at the numbers. Jean whistled low. Revenue's down 40%, Morris continued. People buy cars online now. Dealerships like his are dying. He's been bleeding money for 3 years. He pulled out another sheet. This is the foreclosure notice, filed November 15th. He's got 30 days to pay or the bank takes everything. What about personal? I asked. Morris flipped pages. The penthouse downtown rented, $4,200 a month, 3 months behind. That's $12,600 he owes. The Bentley, leased, $2,800 monthly, repossessed December 3rd. That's why he's been taking Ubers. Jean shook his head. What about that country club he's always talking about? $18,000 a year in dues, 8 months unpaid. They're about to revoke his membership. Morris looked up. And 4 credit cards maxed out. Total of $85,000. He's barely making minimum payments. I felt something cold settle in my chest. So the empire doesn't exist, Morris said flatly. Never did. His father, Harold Reed, built that dealership in 1972 with $500 and a dream. Real bootstrap story. Took him 26 years to build it into something solid. And Thatcher inherited it in '98 when Harold died, had a gold mine handed to him, and in 25 years he's run it straight into the ground. Morris closed the folder. The self-made man story stolen from his father's real struggle. How long does he have? I asked. 3 weeks, maybe 4, then it's personal bankruptcy. Jean leaned forward. So why is he acting like he's on top of the world? Morris smiled grimly. That's what con men do. They sell the sizzle while the steak rots. I stared at the documents spread across the table. Thatcher's business was dying, heart attack coming, sudden, terminal. The words triggered something, a memory I'd kept buried for 30 years. Like Claire. Claire died of a heart attack, no warning, dead at 40. But here's what I'd never told anyone, what I'd never let myself think about. I wasn't there. I was at a car auction in St. Cloud, 2 hours away. Claire called around noon. Gav, my chest hurts. I was looking at a 1992 Civic good price, trying to win the bid. Take some aspirin. I'll be home soon. She was gone in 20 minutes. By the time I got to the hospital, she was already gone. 15-year-old Camille was in the waiting room screaming at me. Where were you? Mom needed you, and you weren't there. She was right. I wasn't there. So I spent the next 30 years trying to make up for it, giving Camille everything, saying yes to everything, being there with my wallet even when I couldn't be there any other way. But Claire's voice now, not the real Claire, just the memory of her, whispered differently. Stop giving gaffes. Start teaching. How much do I owe you? I asked Morris. He waved me off. Coffee's on me. Just don't let him hurt anyone else. Morris left. Jean and I sat in silence. What are you going to do with this? Jean finally asked, nodding at the folder. I looked at the evidence. Thatcher's lies, his debts, his coming collapse. Then I thought about my own folder, back home. Bank statements, receipts, $320,000 in silent support. One dinner, I said. I'm going to invite everyone. Camille Holden, the kids, even Thatcher. You're going to expose him. I'm going to tell the truth, his truth and mine. Jean studied me. That's going to hurt her? I know, but she needs to see what's real and what's smoke. I drove home with that folder on my passenger seat. I had Thatcher's truth now, but I also had to face my own. For 30 years I'd hidden behind a checkbook. Invisible. Safe. Never demanding respect because I was afraid to lose love. Time to step into the light. Even if it burned. More than a month passed. 37 days of silence. No calls, no texts, nothing. Jean asked every few days. She gonna call? Maybe she's too proud. Or maybe Thatcher helped her. That thought made my stomach turn. I missed Kai and Penny. Missed Penny's stories about ballet class. Missed Kai's quiet way of watching the world. Every night I thought about calling. Every night I didn't. If I called first, nothing would change. Day 65, Saturday morning. I was in my garage organizing tools on the pegboard Claire had installed years ago when I heard a car pull up. Through the window I saw Camille getting out. No makeup, jeans and a sweatshirt, hair pulled back, and in her hands a small bouquet of carnations wrapped in plastic from the grocery store. Not roses, she couldn't afford roses anymore. I opened the door. Hi, Dad. Camille. We stood there, awkward, like strangers. Can I come in? I stepped aside. In the kitchen I made coffee, gave us something to do with our hands. Camille set the carnations on the counter. They looked out of place. Too cheap. Too sad. I came to apologize, she said. I poured coffee. Didn't answer. You didn't just fix cars. Her voice cracked. You built a life. You built me. And I spit on it. I set the coffee pot down. When's the last time you asked how I was? What? Not what I could do for you. Not what I could give you. Just how I was. When's the last time? Camille stared at her coffee, silent. You don't remember? I said. Because you never asked? Tears rolled down her face. I'm sorry. Long silence, just the kitchen clock ticking. Then, Dad, we're really struggling. Holden took a second shift at the warehouse. I'm doing freelance marketing at night. But we need, she swallowed hard, we need $5,000. Just to catch up. I swear I'll pay you back. No. Dad, you're 45 years old. You have to do this yourself. More tears. Kai asked me yesterday why you don't come over anymore. She pulled a folded paper from her pocket. He wrote this for English class. She slid it across the table. My hands shook as I unfolded it. The Man Who Built Everything, by Kai Reed. My grandfather built everything with his hands, including my mother's strength, though she doesn't know it yet. My other grandfather talks about success. Fancy cars, big deals. But my grandpa just shows up, grease under his nails. Never complains, never brags. He fixed our car once when it broke down. Didn't charge us. Just said family helps family. Mom says he only fixed cars, but I think he fixed more than that. He fixed our lives. We just didn't notice. I see him. I always have. I couldn't finish reading. My vision blurred. Tell Kai. My voice broke. Tell him I miss him too. Then come to dinner, please. I looked at my daughter. Really looked at her, exhausted, scared. Finally seeing what I'd been trying to teach her. I'll think about it. She nodded. Stood. Hugged me. I couldn't remember the last time she'd done that. After she left, I sat at my kitchen table. The one Claire and I bought at a thrift store in 1983 for $40. We'd refinished it together, sanded it, stained it, built our life around it. I read Kai's essay 3 more times. My grandson saw me. He'd always seen me. Maybe it was time everyone else did too. The next day I called Jean. I'm doing it. One dinner. Everyone needs to hear the truth. Both folders. Everything. My receipts, Thatcher's debts. All of it. Jean was quiet for a moment. When? Late January. After the holidays. Let Camille have Christmas with the kids first. The weeks passed slow. Thanksgiving. I ate alone. Leftover turkey sandwich and football on TV. Camille texted a photo of their table. Small. Simple. They were trying. Christmas morning my phone buzzed. Kai and Penny in matching pajamas holding presents. Not expensive ones. Camille wrote, "Don't worry, Dad, we're managing." I texted back, "Proud of you." And I meant it. Mid-January I made the calls. First Camille. "I'm hosting Sunday dinner, January 26th, 6 o'clock. Silence. Then really. "Bring everyone. Holden, Kai, Penny." "Of course, thank you, Dad." Relief in her voice. Then I said it. "And invite Thatcher." "What, why?" "He's Holden's father. He should be there." Long pause. "Okay, if you want." Then I called Thatcher directly. "Mr. Reed, this is Gavin Grant. I'd like to invite you to dinner." Surprise in his voice. "Well, how gracious of you, Gavin." "Sunday, January 26th, 6 p.m., my house." "I'll be there." He sounded pleased. Probably thought I was finally showing proper respect. The week before I prepared, shopped at the grocery store on Lake Street. Pot roast, potatoes, carrots, rosemary, everything from Claire's handwritten cookbook. The one with grease stains on the pages and her notes in the margins. Add extra garlic. Gavin loves garlic. I cleaned the house top to bottom. Vacuumed, dusted, scrubbed the bathroom. The house hadn't been this clean since Claire died. Jean came over Saturday. "You ready for this?" "No, but it's time." He helped me organize the folders. 2 manila envelopes. One with my bank statements, receipts, spreadsheets. $320,000 documented. The other with Morris's findings. Thatcher's Empire of Lies. I set the table with our good china. Wedding gift from Claire's parents. White plates with gold trim. We'd only used them twice. Our wedding. Our 25th anniversary 3 months before she died. Saturday night, I couldn't sleep. Sat at the kitchen table at 2 a.m., staring at Claire's photo on the wall. "Is this right?" Her smile seemed to answer. Truth is always right. Sunday morning, I woke at 5. Cooked for 6 hours. The pot roast simmered. Rosemary and thyme filled the house. Smelled like memory. Like all the Sunday dinners Claire used to make when Camille was little. By 5 o'clock, everything was ready. The table set, good china gleaming, pot roast resting, potatoes golden, the 2 folders on the sideboard waiting. 5:30, the doorbell rang. I opened the door. Camille stood there with Holden and the kids. She looked nervous, hopeful. "Dad, the house looks amazing. Come in." Kai hugged me first tight like he'd missed me. Then Penny wrapped her arms around my waist. "Grandpa, I missed you." "Missed you too, sweetheart." At 5:50 the doorbell rang again. Thatcher Reed stepped out of an Uber. I saw Kai notice and whisper something to Penny. Thatcher wore a navy suit that probably cost more than my old monthly mortgage. He smiled like he owned the place. "Gavin, what a lovely home. So authentic. Thanks for coming." Jean arrived last. Stood in the doorway, gave me a look. "You ready?" I nodded. We sat. I served pot roast, potatoes, glazed carrot salad. Everything Claire used to make. Small talk filled the room, whether Kai's Project Penny's ballet recital. Then Thatcher took over. He always did. "Just finalized a major fleet acquisition," he said. 30 vehicles. Corporate accounts are where the real money is. Lies. Morris had shown me everything, but I let him talk. Holden stayed quiet. Camille kept glancing at me. She sensed something building. Mothers always know. Every lie Thatcher told made what I was about to reveal sharper. I served dessert apple pie, Claire's recipe. Brown sugar cinnamon. Everyone relaxed. Then I set down my fork and stood. The room went quiet slowly, like a wave receding before it crashes. "Before we finish," I said, "I want to say something." Camille's face tightened. "Dad?" "Jean, could you hand me that folder?" Jean brought the manila envelope from the sideboard and set it in my hand. The table fell completely silent. Kai and Penny looked up. Even they felt the weight. I opened the folder, pulled out a spreadsheet, set my laptop on the table, and turned the screen toward them. Camille, 3 months ago you said I'd just fixed cars? She opened her mouth, then closed it. I want to show you what else I fixed. I clicked. The spreadsheet filled the screen. University of Minnesota, 2000 to 2004, $60,000. I looked at her. I took a second mortgage on this house to pay for that. Her face drained of color. Your MBA, Carlson School, 2005 to 2007, $35,000. My voice stayed level. I sold your mother's Accord to make the down payment. Camille covered her mouth. Your condo purchase, 2014, $40,000 down. Click. I cashed out my entire retirement. I'm 68 with no 401k because of that. Holden dropped his head into his hands. Monthly support, 2014 to 2024. Mortgage help, insurance, daycare, groceries, kids' activities. I read the lines. $18.50 a month for 120 months. Penny's tears ran silently. That's $185,000. I looked at my daughter. Total over 20 years, $320,000. Camille sobbed openly. Not once, I said, my voice cracking, did I ask for repayment. Not once did I charge interest. Not once did I make you feel small. She couldn't look at me. I did it because I love you. Because when your mother died, I promised to give you everything. My voice broke. But I forgot to teach you what she would have, how to stand on your own. Nobody moved. Camille cried. Penny cried. Even Kai wiped his eyes. I let the silence settle. Then I looked at Thatcher. He remained composed, smiling, faintly unaware of what was coming. I reached for the second folder. And you, Thatcher? I turned to Thatcher. He sat at the far end of my table spine, straight, that practiced smile still clinging to his face. Jean hadn't touched his coffee. Holden stared at his plate. Kai watched me like he was memorizing every word. You told my daughter I was nothing, I said, that you'd built an empire, that she should be more like you. I opened the second folder. Morris Thompson is an accountant. He worked with your father, Harold Reed, for 15 years. Thatcher's jaw twitched. I slid the first document across the table. Reed Luxury Motors. Current debt, $920,000. $520,000 to the manufacturer, $400,000 to the bank. His hand moved to cover it. I laid down the next page. Citizens Bank filed this on November 15th. You have 30 days to pay or they foreclose everything. I paused. That was 42 days ago. This is private, Thatcher started. Your penthouse, 1200 Nicolay. Foreman $200 a month. Rented not owned, 3 months late. You owe $12,600. Camille's head turned slowly toward him. The Bentley, I continued. Leased. Repossessed December 3rd. That's why you took an Uber tonight. Kai whispered, I knew it. I kept going. Credit cards, $85,000 maxed out. Country club dues, 8 months unpaid. Thatcher stood. You have no right to dig in it. And the biggest lie, I said louder now. Your father, Harold, built Reed Motors in 1972 with 500 and a dream. You inherited it in 1998 when he died. I looked him dead in the eye. For 25 years you destroyed what it took your father 26 years to build. The room was silent except for the wind outside. Self-made. I let the word hang. You're self-destroyed. Thatcher's face flushed red. You don't understand business. You charge your own son 5% monthly interest, 60% annually. That's loan sharking, Thatcher. Holden stood. He turned to face his father. Dad, is this true? All of it? Thatcher's voice cracked. Holden, this mechanic doesn't understand. This mechanic, I said standing now too, paid every bill in cash. This mechanic owns this house outright. This mechanic never lied about who he was. I stepped closer. You're a con man in a 3,000 suit you probably can't afford. Your empire is smoke. My daughter worshipped smoke. Thatcher grabbed his coat. I don't have to listen to. Before you go, I said quietly, I'm not the failure here. You taught my daughter that image mattered more than character. Now she knows the truth about both of us. He didn't look back. The door slammed. Through the window, I watched an Uber pull away. Nobody moved. The wind rattled the windows. Snow fell in thick, silent sheets. Camille's hands covered her face. Her shoulders shook. Holden stared at the door his father had just walked through like he was seeing it for the first time. Kai stood across the room and wrapped his arms around me. "Grandpa," he said into my shoulder, "I always knew. That's why I wrote that essay. You're real. He's not." Penny was crying. "Grandpa, why didn't you tell us?" I knelt down to her level, took her small hands in mine. "Because love doesn't need an audience, sweetheart. It just needs to do its job." Camille slid out of her chair. She knelt beside me on the floor. "Daddy," she hadn't called me that in years. "I'm so sorry. You gave me everything and I despised it." I placed my hand on top of her head the way I used to when she was small and couldn't sleep. "I spoiled you," I said. "Thatcher was right about one thing. I didn't teach you to stand up on your own." I lifted her chin. "But that changes right now." "What do I need to do?" she whispered. "You need to grow up." We sat at that table until midnight, talking, really talking. For the first time in 30 years, I wasn't the invisible ATM. I was Dad again. And tomorrow, Camille would learn what real work felt like. 8 months later, September came again. I stood in the parking lot of Grant & Daughter Auto Repair, our second location in Bloomington, watching my daughter close a deal. Camille wore our company polo navy blue with the new logo. She shook hands with the fleet manager from Metro Transit, her grip firm, her smile professional. "Annual maintenance contract," she said. 40 buses. 45,000, 45,000. The manager turned to me. "Your daughter's impressive, Mr. Grant. Sharp negotiator." "She learned from the best," I said. "Her mother." After he left, Camille jogged over, grinning like a kid. "We did it." "You did it," I corrected. "I just gave you the tools. You built this." She looked up at the sign, Grant & Daughter, and her eyes got wet. "We built it. Together. Sunday dinner at my house. Same table I'd built 30 years ago. But everything else was different. Light, laughter, presence. Everyone helped cook now. Camille had taken over Claire's beef stew recipe, the one I'd screwed up 100 times. Kai chopped vegetables. Penny set the table without being asked. Holden poured drinks. Grandpa, Kai said, sitting down, "My essay won the county competition. I'm reading it at graduation." "The man who built everything," I said quietly. "Yeah." He looked at me serious. I meant every word. Penny bounced in her chair. "And I got the lead in the ballet recital. Miss Anderson said I worked the hardest." Holden cleared his throat. "I saw my dad last week." The table went quiet. "How is he?" I asked. "Living in a one-bedroom in Richfield. Got a job at CarMax. Sales associate." Holden paused. "He's different, quieter. Asked if he could come to Kai's graduation." Camille looked at me. "What do you think, Dad?" "Boundaries, not walls," I said. "If you're ready, I'm okay." Holden's voice cracked. "Thank you, Mr. Grant, for everything, for showing me what real strength looks like." After dinner, Jean and I sat on the porch with beers. "You done good, Gav," he said. "Almost lost her. But you didn't. You saved her by letting her fall." Through the window, I watched Camille teaching Penny how to wash dishes properly. Kai helping Holden take out the trash. Everyone working together. 30 years I'd thought love meant giving everything. No questions, no limits, no lessons. But real love, the kind Claire knew, means teaching someone how to give to themselves. My hands are scarred from 40 years holding wrenches. My back aches when it rains. But my heart is whole. Because my daughter doesn't need me to fix her life anymore. She fixes it herself. Dad, Camille called from inside. "Penny wants you to read her a story." I stood, walked back in. As I passed the garage, I saw the new sign lit up against the September sky. Grant & Daughter built on Honesty Est. 1905, 2925. I smiled. Claire would have loved that. Looking back, I realized this true story isn't about money or pride. It's about what we teach the people we love most. For 30 years, I thought being a good father meant shielding Camille from every struggle. I was wrong. Don't be like me. Don't confuse love with rescue. Don't let your fear of their pain steal their chance to grow. Grandpa, stories like mine are meant to be lessons, not just memories. And here's what I learned. Real love isn't found in how much you give. It's in teaching someone to stand on their own. God gave us hands to build, not just to hand things over. He knew strength comes from struggle, not from safety. This true story taught me that the best gift isn't what's in your wallet. It's the wisdom to know when to hold on and when to let go. Grandpa stories are full of hard truths, and this one nearly cost me my daughter. So here's my advice. Love your kids fiercely, but love them wisely. Give them tools, not crutches. Teach them that their worth isn't measured by what you provide, but by what they can build themselves. That's the true story I'll carry to my last breath. If this story touched your heart, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever had to let someone fall to help them rise? Share this grandpa story with someone who needs to hear it. And if you're new here, subscribe so we can keep sharing real stories that matter. Thank you for walking this journey with me.